Some of you have sent me this video where the gentleman is saying that the swing is supposed to be a squat, not a hinge. Is this true? Well, let's find out in this video. But before we get started, we help busy over 40s get in shape with only 30 minutes of kettlebell training per week in the next 30 days. If you want to find out more about our method, download our free ebook called The Kettlebell Code in the first link in the description. Gregory von Lebe. Many of you have sent me this video. And even though it's a fairly long video, we can summarize the statement of the gentleman with one sentence. You should squat your swing for enhanced technique, safety, and more power development. Now let's look at these claims one by one. We have two evidence-based perspectives when it comes to kettlebell swing safety. Number one is from Professor Stuart McGill in his kettlebell swing study. He states that super stiffness can cause irritations in the lower back. This means that in the typical high-tension hardstyle swing, you are recommended to engage into a lot of stiffness, the hip snap, be explosive as possible. And what Dr. Stuart McGill is saying is that for certain people who do not tolerate these minor shifts in the spine, this might cause issues. The second evidence-based approach is from physiotherapist and RKC kettlebell coach Neil May from Australia. He was conducting the Bell trial, where he was teaching senior citizens how to engage with kettlebell training. Initially, it was thought that these senior folks would get coaching from Neil May on the kettlebell swing. However, the pandemic got in the way, and so these seniors were left on their own. The Bell trial, however, continued. Coming back a couple of weeks later without additional coaching on the kettlebell swing, he found that the technique was still fairly bad. But these guys were having awesome benefits, nobody got hurt, and this was a realization that when it comes to the kettlebell swing, when you use lighter weights and your body can handle it, you can swing however you want. Let's look at the second claim, power development. You hear this quite a lot in the kettlebell world. Swings and snatches grant you more power. And power means you are able to display force as fast as possible. If you've never been exposed to kettlebell training, your body, since it's a new stimulus, might get some additional gains from it, even if you are already advanced. With that being said, according to Dr. Yuri Verkhoshansky, whose teachings have been implemented by Louis Simmons, rest in peace, from Westside Barbell, a crucial element for true explosiveness is a 0.15 second reaction time between muscle tension and relaxation. Jumping closely aligns with this requirement, while kettlebells do fall short. So if you want to improve your explosiveness or your power, do some depth jumps or jumping in general. So with this in mind, is the kettlebell swing rather a squat than a hinge? The answer is somewhere in the middle. Let's get a little bit closer to the truth by looking at the different swings. Disclaimer first, learn the basics first and then venture out on your own and swing however you want. It's an awesome exercise, it yields a lot of benefits, and don't get lost in the jungle of perfect technique. The more reps you put in with some proper information laid on top of it, the better you become. Number one is a high tension swing with heavy weights, just like this one. Here I'm swinging a 62 kg kettlebell. Now, as you can see, the swing doesn't turn into a squat. It turns into rather a deadlift. The hips are going a little bit lower. Yes, I'm bending the knees a bit, but as you can see, the hips are still above my knees. Gravity pulls weights down in a straight line to the floor. Because you're swinging heavier weights, the pull just becomes a lot harder to manage. Therefore, you need more muscles to counteract the weight from falling down to the floor. The second type of swing is the kettlebell sports swing, and its characteristic is the Russian pendulum. Watch. In the back of the swing, as you can see, I have the knees fully extended. I don't lean as far down as I can, but I require some good mobility in my posterior chain so I can even handle this swing. And if I have it, and if I know the proper skill, I don't have to worry at all. Finally is the hybrid swing, which I would consider a pure hinge. Watch. So in that regard, I'm really engaging into a crisp hinge as far back as I can. And the gentleman in the video mentioned something interesting about the biomechanics of your spine. Now, if you push your hips back as far as you can like this, you want to keep your spine fairly tight, locked in place, because if this happens, you are now bending the spine. Nothing happens in the hips. It's all about spine movements. If you can tolerate some bending of the spine as you go down, there is no issue whatsoever. In kettlebell sport, they even call this the amplitude. So I can use a larger amplitude, watch, from a snatch, for example. Or I can use a smaller amplitude. So with this demonstration, I hope I was able to show you that there's different ways to swing a kettlebell. Therefore, making general statements like the swing is a squat, or the swing is a hinge only, or the swing is this and that can be a little bit confusing. However, I understand the game of YouTube. I understand that people want clear and concise instructions. And sometimes this is what I do. I give you a clear and concise title, and then I give you a more nuanced perspective in the video in and all by itself. Finally, I want to give you my thoughts on this one remark that stood out the most, and it has nothing to do with the squat or the hinge or the swing.
Way back in the day, the gurus of the kettlebell community were teaching, no forward knee movement. They've since softened that, and now they're allowing a little bit of knee movement forward.
The grandmasters of kettlebells now allow more knee flexion. I'm having a huge issue with this because it keeps you trapped in this dogmatic place that I used to be in when I got started with kettlebells. Now, since then, I've ventured out and I've freed myself from it. Now listen, learning the basics is important. Listening to somebody who knows how the exercise is supposed to be done is a great thing. Here's the major distinction though. In competitions, there are rules. In general fitness, there's best practices. Follow these best practices and then try stuff out on your own and listen to different perspectives. I do not care whether Pavel, Strong First, the IKFF, even my sensei Steve Carter, Dan John, Dennis Vasilev, the IKFF, the ILMF, whoever it is, I listen to what they say. But if some of these guys say, well, this is not allowed in kettlebells, it's general fitness. Most of us pick up the kettlebell for a spin to improve our well-being and to improve general fitness. If you jump into a competition, this is a different ballpark. Here's the next thing that you have to do. Clean and press that like and subscribe button. Share with a friend who's also interested in kettlebells. And if you made it this far, download our free ebook called The Kettlebell Code in the first link in the description. Listen, if you're over 40, over 50, over 60, you don't have a lot of time to work out. So in that case, I believe the kettlebell can serve you well because it touches so many bases of physical qualities all at once, despite being short on time. So check out the ebook. It's 100% free in the first link in the description.